Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by BetterHelp.com and LittleShaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about the cycle of narcissistic relationships. This is something virtually everyone involved with any narcissist in any kind of relationship deals with in some way, so I thought we could dedicate an episode of the show to talking about it. There is a cycle or a pattern to the way that narcissistic people behave in relationships. Doesn't matter what kind of relationship it is, it could be parent, coworker, spouse, they all follow the same pattern. That pattern is idealize, devalue, discard. We are going to explore what these things can look like and why they happen. Idealization is defined as regarding or representing something as perfect or as better than it is in reality. This is a perfect description of the idealization phase of narcissistic relationships, which is often characterized by something called love bombing. Love bombing is a very intense campaign of attention focused on another person or people, usually consisting of compliments, affirmations, proclamations that someone is perfect or a perfect match, and affection that seems to become very intense very fast. The idealization phase of the relationship often creates very strong feelings in people very quickly, resulting in people making decisions, commitments, and ignoring or not seeing red flags because they're swept up in the emotion of the relationship. One of the first red flags we often see in pathologically narcissistic people is their tendency to overreact. And it's very important to remember that this does not only refer to negative situations. The idealization of you and the relationship is an overreaction. Behavior during the idealization phase can look like giving constant or unrealistic compliments, gifts, or praise, giving or demanding constant attention, wanting and or talking about committing very quickly, ignoring boundaries and requests to slow things down, saying that you are connected or that you're soulmates very quickly, talking about intense and strong emotions very quickly when they don't know you very well, talking about how perfect you are or the relationship is, trying to sell you on how perfect they are or that they would be for you, talking about being rescued or rescuing you, believing the relationship is deeper or more intimate than it actually is. Idealization happens in part because many narcissistic people form attachments very quickly. Their emotions are unstable and out of control, and their need for other people is paramount. They legitimately depend on the input of others for survival, so taking time to get to know people or seeing them as they truly are is not really an option. Other people are very important to narcissists for this reason. Their value in this area is extremely high. Pathologically narcissistic people cannot experience themselves except through the reactions and the reflections of others. They have no true self-concept and no ability to create or sustain self-worth. So they use other people as kind of a psychic mirror to be able to assess who and what they themselves are. This is something they are required to do in order to survive because of abilities that they do not have. It's not optional, and there's no other way to do it. There are those who believe that the idealization from narcissists is very calculated, and this is certainly true for some of them. For example, psychopathic narcissists do not need the reflection from other people in order to survive. They don't seem to have the ego conflicts or struggles with shame that we see in non-psychopathic narcissists. Their goal is not survival. They do not depend on other people to experience themselves. They do not struggle with self-worth or identity, and their motives are not subconscious. Therefore, there would be no sincere emotion in anything they do. They simply want something from the other person, often something tangible like money. They know they want it and they're trying to get it. It's no deeper than that, and there is no belief on their part that any of their professed emotions are real. This is different than non-psychopathic narcissists who often believe they do genuinely care about other people. They don't understand how emotions or relationship functions for other people, and they mistakenly believe that their feelings change because of the other person instead of understanding that the trigger for this is actually within them, and it has nothing to do with anything the other person is doing or not doing. Psychopaths are aware that they don't care, and this does not change. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that looking at behavior alone is not enough when it comes to understanding pathological narcissism. Predominantly psychopathic narcissists may engage in many of the same behaviors as narcissists that are not psychopaths, but their motives and the internal experiences driving the behavior are not the same. So that's just something to think about. During the idealization phase, the narcissist sees other people as perfect because other people see them as perfect. It's very possible the feelings they are describing are sincere, or at least as sincere as it's possible for them to be, because they're totally in love with the reflection of themselves that this person is showing them. Of course, they want to be around this person all the time and soak up as much of that as they can. But the emotion they're displaying, sincere though it may be in many situations, is not for the other person. It's for themselves. When you look at a mirror, you don't see the mirror, you see yourself. The mirror is simply the tool through which you are viewing and experiencing yourself. During the idealization phase of the relationship, they want to look at that as much as possible. They want to be around somebody that feels that way about them. This need to see themselves as perfect is what actually causes the devaluation stage of the relationship. Devaluation is the opposite of idealization. If idealization is defined as regarding something as perfect or as better than it is in reality, meaning that you're assigning more value to something than it realistically has, devaluation is assigning less value to something than it realistically has. If something is no longer perfect, and it must be perfect in order to have any value to this kind of person, then not being perfect anymore equates to having no value at all. Remember, this is all about you being the mirror. If a mirror reflects a less than perfect image, you probably wouldn't want to use it anymore. In order for the fragile fiction of idealization to last, people can never get to know each other. They can never see each other make a mistake, have a flaw, make a bad choice, or do anything that results in a loss of perfection. Of course, this is unreasonable and ridiculous. It's not possible to be around somebody and still believe that they're perfect. You will see their flaws, their mistakes, their bad choices. They will see yours. In a normal relationship, some idealization does happen, but the relationship survives it. It recovers and people adjust to who the other person actually is in reality. Devaluation occurs in narcissistic relationships because narcissists cannot do that. The revelation that the person is not perfect is unforgivable. Many narcissists will even accuse other people of lying to them or tricking them by pretending to be someone that they're not. The devaluation of the other person can be triggered by essentially anything and nothing. It could be that they saw the narcissist's imperfections, even if they don't see it that way, or it could be that the narcissist saw theirs. Either way, once this happens, the relationship is essentially changed forever. The reflection the narcissist sees from the other person is not perfect anymore. It's been damaged. This is devastating for them because they spend their entire lives trying to avoid reality and they cannot forgive someone who caused that. As high up on the pedestal a person was, that's how far they're going to fall. And the result is often shocking for people. I'm now worthless because I made a mistake or because I saw you make one. But this is how it is. If you really loved them, if you were really the person that you said you were, you would not see anything they do as wrong, ever. Because you did, you have proven once and for all that you really don't care. This is, of course, backwards, unreasonable, and unrealistic. But this is a person who lives in a fiction. And if you can't live in it with them, you don't care about them. It is sadly ironic that regardless of whether someone would actually agree to do that or not, it still won't work. Part of the reason narcissistic people need others is because narcissists are in a zero-sum game. A zero-sum game is a situation where each person's loss or gain is exactly balanced by the loss or gain of the other person. This means narcissists can't win unless someone else loses. They can't succeed unless someone else fails. They can't be the victim unless someone else is the villain. They can't be right unless someone else is wrong. It is only through the reality of the other person that they can experience the reality of themselves. When you add that to a situation where a person struggles with pathological delusional shame and cannot take responsibility for anything because of it, you end up with a situation where one of the other person or people's primary functions in the relationship is to be the scapegoat and the blame holder. So even if the other person in a narcissistic relationship strives to only ever see the narcissist as perfect, they still can't succeed because the narcissist by default must blame this person for everything, including their own thoughts, feelings, and actions. When you are to blame, you cannot be perfect. Either way, you lose. Behavior during the devaluation stage can look like spiteful, nasty, or inconsiderate comments, accusations of you having cruel or inconsiderate motives and feelings, spending less time communicating or pushing other people away, getting irritated over small things and blowing up or going silent, passive-aggressive behavior, refusing or being unable to explain why they're upset or what other people have done wrong, accusations of sabotage, cruelty, abandonment, or rejection, personal and character attacks, accusing others of not caring enough or of feeling ways that they don't feel, triangulation and smear campaigning. Narcissists also have ridiculously unreasonable expectations for people and for relationships. They demand to be the most important thing in any relationship, in any situation at all times. Underneath the heroic or needy or self-assured or arrogant or capable or whatever other image they're projecting is a very fragile, very sensitive, self-loathing, and shame-based ego that reads abandonment, rejection, insult, and contempt into literally everything. One of the functions of the other people in these relationships is to somehow be the person they don't feel this from. The one person they don't get that from. This is, of course, impossible, and devaluation occurs partially because people fail to do that. This is one of the things that can lead to the discard phase of the relationship. Discarding is what it's called when a narcissist simply ends the relationship. There is often no warning or reason given. They just walk away without a word. Even if a relationship has gone on for years, fluctuating between idealization and devaluation, discard is still possible and often does happen. The reasons for discard can vary, but only on the surface. The true reason for discard is always the same. The reflection of themselves that the narcissist is receiving from the other person is not what they want to see. They cannot deal with what they are seeing reflected from the other person, whatever that is. This mirroring is any other person's primary function in any narcissistic relationship, and if they cannot fulfill it, they will be discarded and or replaced with someone who can. This is, of course, blamed on the other person. Discard can be very confusing and painful. Often people don't understand what has caused the end of the relationship or why they've been discarded. Attempts to ask the narcissist often go nowhere. This is not a person in touch with their feelings or cognizant of their motives the majority of the time, and they are certainly not worried about exploring these things out of consideration for anybody else's feelings. They may not even know why they've ended the relationship. Their reasons may be odd, unclear, or make no sense. Attempts to get clarity or closure will often be met with indifference or even cruelty because they no longer care about keeping that person around. Their primary purpose is no longer necessary. Narcissists don't have relationships with people they can't get things from. When others are no longer important in this way, which is really the only way they actually can be important, they cease to matter at all. Discard does not always happen, and discard does not mean that the narcissist will never come back around. Some relationships simply go through cycles of idealization and devaluation over and over and over until the narcissist dies. The narcissist may discard and stay away for years, then attempt to reach out again all of a sudden out of the blue. It's important to remember that through all of the cycles of the relationship, none of the fluctuations in the narcissist's emotions or behavior are your fault. They're not caused by you, they're not because of you. This is an unstable person with a lot of different challenges, many of which make them an absolute nightmare as a partner, friend, or caregiver. They should not be in relationships at all, to be perfectly honest. However, they do get in them. Their unique way of functioning requires them to seek out relationships with other people. It's important to understand what's going on so that you will know what you're dealing with. Taking the confusion out of it de-weaponizes the behavior, making it possible to deal with it in a clearer way. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype around the world. So if you're interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Book an Appointment tab to go ahead and do that. I teach workshops, seminars, and clinics throughout the year, so if you're interested in seeing what we're running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought brought to you by BetterHelp.com and LittleShaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.